I'm in pursuit of the idea that every young person can be a Jagrek, a self-awakened, proactive citizen, and every space can nurture that Jagrek youth leadership.
Hello and welcome back to In Pursuit of. It feels like we are shooting after a really long time, but welcome back. And today, my guest is Kanika Sinha, who is the convener of ComMutiny, the youth collective. So welcome, Kanika.
Thank you.
So nice to have you here. And Kanika, I'm going to begin with a quick fire round this time. So are you ready? Yes?
I hope so.
Should I time you? So Kanika, tell me the first moment you felt the mutiny within.
So right after college, volunteering in riot-affected communities began that churning within me. And I think that was my first mutiny within.
All right. So youth in one word.
Magical.
Okay. A book that shaped your worldview.
Howard Rourke, the character in The Fountainhead, actually taught me what I wanted to be, but also what I didn't want to be.
Nice. Most memorable moment mentoring a changemaker.
Moments, just like too many. And I think you don't really find that exchange in one moment. It's when they come back 15 years later and we're still friends and the exchange has been mutual. To me, that's the moment of joy. Yeah.
How lovely.
Yeah.
Coffee, chai, or conversations?
Conversations.
Okay. One campaign you wish you'd launched.
Bell Bajao, breakthrough. Just the idea, I think it was so powerful that all I needed to do to intervene in a matter of domestic violence was ring that bell and stop it. And I think that just created so much power for people. So I salute to Breakthrough for that.
Wow. What's your superpower as a facilitator?
I think saying I don't know. Just, yeah.
How lovely.
Authentic.
Very authentic, I must say.
We'll find it together.
Yes. A quote you live by.
Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. John Lennon.
Yes, it's a lovely one. Yes. If ComMutiny were a song, what genre would it be?
So Sapphire, Ed Sheeran has been playing in my head a lot. And I love that it's an amalgamation. And I love that it's new and old and it's bringing the best of so much together.
And very youthful.
And youthful.
And hopeful.
And hopeful, yes.
Yes. What's your favorite sound at a youth gathering?
Just cheers, just joy. Anything that sounds like joy.
Thank you. Good. You did well.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Okay.
10 on 10 for you.
Okay.
All right. So coming back to more serious questions, Kanika. Okay, so how does ComMutiny define and nurture the fifth space for youth development?
So, the idea of fifth space is really simple. It's a space where a young person will experience love, learning, ownership, freedom, social hope. It's anywhere, right? It isn't a physical space. Any space can create that for a young person. And a space that sort of inspires them to, discover themselves and discover the world and do this sort of self and social journey together. Right. So social change is crucial to that, but so is self-transformation. So that's the idea of the fifth space, is just creating experiences that will enable this for a young person.
So maybe if you were to add an example or something to help us understand it a bit better, because it's quite abstract as a concept.
Absolutely abstract.
So
and I think it's in a sense purposefully abstract, because the idea is that it isn't ComMutini's or Pravas or any other organization's idea. It is anything that a youth worker can sort of pick up and co-create. Typically, a youth center or a workshop space where young people feel the freedom to express themselves. They feel a sense of community and belongingness, right? They feel that they've learned something here, and they find hope in that moment. Like, you're here together doing something bigger than yourselves. And you're involved in something that is, like I said, I mean, it's beyond yourself, but you're transforming something. You're not stuck in a rut. You're not feeling like, I can't do this. Like, who's going to solve these problems? The agency to actually be able to make a change. I think that's what these spaces do. So it could be in a workshop. It could be an entire journey. It could be in a moment. But they need to be created intentionally. If spaces don't happen, they're co-created. Yeah.
But that's a lovely term that you've put to it, the fifth space, It's really nice. I like it.
Okay.
What are the biggest barriers that changemakers face today, and how do you help them? How does CYC help them?
Yeah. So, young people in general, there's psychological exclusion they face, social exclusion they face, economic exclusion they face. Society, the way we're structured is very hierarchical, patriarchal. So generally, young people's ability to voice their ideas, take decisions and leadership, even for their own lives.
Right.
Marriage, not a decision they can typically take. Careers, not a decision they can typically take. And so the whole idea is for us to be able to, breaking these barriers is important. That comes from changing norms.
Right.
So these are set norms that we've been following for eons, and with every young person who sort of pushes a boundary and pushes the envelope a little bit, you're changing norms. But you do need to then see more role models like that. So that's another sort of area that there are so many young leaders. Can they become role models, and can we sort of amplify and visibilize them more? And that's the way that ComMutiny is trying to work. So ComMutiny is trying to aggregate and bring together a large community of practice, lots of people working with young people. We need to talk to each other, learn together, do more together. We need to build more resources to work with young people. I mean, the volume is so large. And we need to be able to showcase and visualize what young people are being able to do, make it aspirational, right? So that's what we do together as ComMutiny.
So Kanika, tell me, what are the biggest barriers that changemakers face today, and how do you at CYC help, fix those or dismantle those barriers?
So young people in general face, all kinds of structural barriers that exist because society is very hierarchical, very patriarchal. But I mean, if you just think about it, like, in the everyday life of a young person, the things that really matter to them, that affect their entire lives, decisions like career, decisions like, partner, marriage, are decisions they mostly still can't take on their own.
Yeah.
And yet, nation building is sort of, on their shoulders. So
that's really such a convoluted thought, actually.
Yeah.
You can't take these basic decisions, but you're expected to run the country.
You should run the country, and not even really run the country, but you're, so essentially become the right kind of worker, become the right kind of consumer. And, that's really where young people get located in this entire discourse of dividend, So right. I think that's also why we sort of move away from this language of demographic dividend, because it feels very extractive. Young people just being limited to seen as that is not the way that we like to see young people.
Right.
But yeah, I think the idea that whether it's in my home, to be able to voice my opinion, find the agency to do it, whether it's in my workplace, whether it's in my community where I want to lead some change, we need to be able to create an enabling spaces for young people to do this.
Right.
See, because our education and like I'm saying, our culture, our family structures don't already enable that. We're not taught to have an opinion. We're not taught to critically think.
Right.
Yeah, and we're not taught to worry about social change. It's not our problem, So you've got to worry about padhai, you've got to worry about getting a job and then getting a life, and we'll take all the decisions.
Yes.
So in fact,
unfortunate.
Yeah. So the fifth space that we were talking about earlier, the fifth space is apart from those four spaces which are legitimized, the family space, the space of friends, the space of career and education, and the space of leisure. So these are four spaces that young people spend their time in. And these are legitimized. We know them, we accept them. But young people don't make the rules. Young people don't even make the rules about really who they become friends with, because it depends on where you go to school, where you go to college. Also, sometimes what your parents approve of.
Absolutely.
Right? Leisure is also not, what you're watching on social media, the kinds of films that are coming out. So your choices are limited by how everything is structured around you. And that was the idea of the fifth space, is where will a young person actually just get to take decisions.
Right.
But we want to do it in a safe way. We want to do it where they can fail and not have a fear of judgment. Because when they're thrown into the deep end, so there's a lot of I'd say tokenistic youth leadership also that happens. Young people must be at the table. It's cool also to have young people visible, right? But if they haven't built their capacity to voice their decisions, they get alienated in those spaces, right? So you bring them to the table, but when they can't contribute, it kind of puts you back in this vicious narrative that, oh, they're not ready for it. They're not wise enough yet. And it does the same reiteration for them as well. They also start feeling like, yeah, okay, maybe I'm not ready. It's not my time yet.
So tell me, what role does storytelling play in building, youth agency and social justice?
I think it is, to me, it's a twofold thing. One is storytelling is really important to visibilize what young people are doing, to make youth leadership the norm, for people to see that young people can and should and must lead change. And storytelling is also a great way to build agency and voice, right? So it's also a great self-development tool. So that ability to find who I am, what is my narrative, what's the story I want to tell, and then find the confidence and the voice in a way to say it, whether you say it, speak it, whether you write it, whether you do it visually. So I think storytelling has this twofold benefit, and it's very crucial to any sort of youth leadership or youth development process.
Right. Right. So what you're trying to say is that for any young person to be able to communicate their journey, where they're going, or be able to articulate who they are, why they think a certain way, or why they do things a certain way, etc. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, that too. And that storytelling is two ways. It's also, so I'm also shaping my own worldview through stories, right? And so that openness to listening, interpreting, and changing your mind when you need to. I think that's a real sort of capacity that young people also need. We're so polarized because there's so much information that's always coming at us, dealing with this infodemic. The ability to not just tell stories, but to interpret stories, to look for more stories, to look for other viewing points and not get stuck in your point of view. Those are the sort of, that's why storytelling can be so powerful, but it needs to be unpacked and unlayered a little more than we tend to right now.
Would you be able to explain this with a bit more, in a more concrete way,
Sure.
maybe?
Yeah. So there's a program we have called Samjhoto. It's called Samjhoto, the Samvidhan Live Dialogue. So we sort of bring the Constitution into our work a lot because we feel like the framing of the values, especially the liberty, justice, equality, fraternity, the fundamental rights, fundamental duties, that's sort of a common story that binds every citizen, right?
Sure.
It's for every citizen, right? And the idea of this journey is to bring really polarized young people, or I wouldn't say polarized, but young people with different ideologies, right? So different identities, different life stories, different exposure. And so they sit on different sides of these many debates.
Right.
We bring them together through a process where it starts with them sort of just doing an appreciative inquiry, just understanding who you are. What is your story? Why do you think the way you do? Dialoguing based on that. And then sort of, co-creating and collaborating to say, okay, what is our shared idea of India? So that's sort of a journey process.
Lovely.
But there's a story of this young boy, Rahul, who was in this journey that we'd facilitated in Delhi. So he came from an ideology, which was, it was a very religious family, had a certain idea about what inclusion is and what's okay and what's not okay. And at the end of the journey, when they sort of created a song together about India. And he said that would have never happened. He wouldn't have sat together for so long with people from all these different religions, eaten together, hung out together, sort of just gone to parks together, and then worked together and, looked at each other and said, I disagree, but let's do it like this. Can we do it like this? Find some way of really communicating with one another.
Right.
So not just that he did it, but he recognized that, this wasn't so hard. And if I'd remained stuck in that, in where I was when I first entered, I wouldn't have been able to understand what these other ideas are, and I'd be stuck with just the friends I've always had, and I'd never know anyone else or any better. And I resonate with what the Constitution says. And while I can remain as committed to my identity as I want to be, I can also make friends beyond boundaries.
If he was from such a, closed environment, how did he land up for this?
So you have to reach out to young people in ways that interest them and excite them. So there's there's the usage of arts, and there's music, and there's theater, the idea of, and for a lot of people also, these spaces outside, the education and family space aren't available. So you just want a hangout space. So sometimes people also show up for things like that. Obviously,
Nice.
the call out to them, it's about, do you want to discover yourself? Do you want to make new friends? Do you want to, experience the arts of music? So those are the ways to get young people excited. And in fact, we, facilitate an ecosystem called Varta Leap, a large number of organizations who work with young people in different types of settings. So often in rural communities, the call out is there's a computer center. Here's a conversation about careers, so what really matters to them at that point and what they really need. So you've got to enter through their window, as some say, and just then the space is what needs to hook them.
Fantastic. Love it. Just as a parent, parenting children, it's just so complex to be able to ensure that they're able to have a complete view of something and not just get stuck in there. And also as a parent, because you also come with your biases. Also for a lot of children or young people, it's also because their parents have also come from just that much.
Yeah.
So parents are able to tell them only that.
Only that.
Right? So in some ways, it's not their fault, elder people's fault.
That's all you know right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's all you were exposed to.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think that, that the impetus to or sort of taking that responsibility to get out of your echo chambers, whatever they may be. More and more sort of all the algorithms in the world try and, categorize us more and more and keep us in those categories because that's easier. It's like how the caste system has worked.
Absolutely.
And so breaking out of that is really, really sort of crucial.
Such a pleasure having you here. And really, I think your work is so powerful. Working with young people is, it's really special, I think. Thanks.
Thank you.
So keep watching while we continue talking on In Pursuit Of. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.